What's up, guys? Thanks for coming back to another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. If you're new, my name is Damien, and now would be a good time to subscribe because Halloween is coming up, and October means to be Halloween month. Tonight's movie is Murder Party, directed by Jeremy Saulnier, who would later go on to direct Green Room. He made this movie with his childhood friends that he grew up making movies with. And for more information on that, there's a documentary on YouTube that's only about 25 minutes long called Extreme Truth. I put a link in the notes below. And as usual, this episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. So go to the description and click the link and go make yourself look good. Stick around to the end of this video where we'll go over the Badass Award, survival tips, and final thoughts. But first, let's cue up the whiskey bat so you can listen to on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. So let's go! It's Halloween, and Chris has found an invitation on the ground on the way back from the video store. He had rented 3 movies, but has decided that now he's going to go to this party instead. So he makes a night costume out of cardboard and duct tape, and then makes pumpkin bread out of the smashed pumpkin on his porch. Ew. Then MapQuest directions to the party and hops on the bus. When he arrives at the party, he meets 2 girls and 3 guys. Lexi, Sky, Paul, Macon, and Will, or Bill, or William, as he's referred to. They refer to him by all 3 names throughout the movie, I'm pretty sure. I call him Bill. And Bill's costume is Baseball Fury from The Warriors. And Lexi's dressed up as Pris from Blade Runner. Which is funny because in Scream 6... Jesus. Which is funny because in Scream 6... Ethan Landry's character is dressed up as Chris at a Halloween party in that movie. And although they're wearing costumes, they kind of look at him like they're surprised to see him. Like they didn't know they were having a party. When in actuality, I think they just threw out an invitation. And it turns out, I'm assuming they only threw out 1, and that's why they're surprised, because they didn't actually expect anybody to show up, even though they were prepared for it. And as Chris looks around the warehouse floor, he sees, like, Dexter-styled plastic on the floor, an axe, sledgehammer, everything but, like, a literal red flag waving in front of him. And then they wrestle him down and tie him to a chair, but they decide that they're not going to do anything to him until Alexander gets there. And you can almost make a drinking game out of how many times they say dildo.
Dildo. Dildo. Dildo. Dildo. Dildo. Dildo. Dildo.
Alexander is their leader. He's a visionary.
6 months. It's gonna be Starbucks, Whole Foods, Jamba Juice, Cozy. Where's the inspiration in that?
And he brought his new friend, the drug dealer, Zyko, and a dog, Hellhound, with him. He claims to have all this money, like grant money, that he's going to award to somebody. So they're all basically competing on how they're going to kill Chris. And whoever can do it the most creatively, the most artistically, will get the grant money, which is like $300,000. So they decide they're going to wait till the witching hour to do it. Which means they're going to need some food because they're hungry. And while they're trying to decide what they want to eat...
How about Thai food? You like Thai food?
I had Thai food yesterday. Sushi?
I don't really like sushi.
Yeah, I think we should rule Asian out altogether.
Cheeseburgers.
I'm not even hungry.
You guys want to do like breakfast, like pancakes?
Chris gets free out of his restraints and makes a run for it. But they catch him. And they tie him up again, this time with chains instead of ropes. And there's kind of a Reservoir Dogs feel to this. You know, I mean, they're in a warehouse. It's dialogue driven. There's that dude tied to a chair. And Zyko returns. I know, I didn't say Zyko left. Zyko's kind of in and out. He's constantly like leaving and coming back because Alexander's always, you know, sending him out. Hey, go get some food. Go get us cake. Go, we need drugs. We need, in this case, We need truth serum because they're going to play a hardcore version of Truth or Dare. And they all got to inject themselves with the truth serum. So they do. And only Chris can see that Alexander faked his injection. He didn't really take it. And as it sets in, they wax philosophical like quasi-intellectual teenagers. Kind of Breakfast Club style.
Our party is the Breakfast Club with chainsaws and hard drugs.
And then Alexander injects Chris. After they party for a little while, Paul's assistant shows up. Because he can't do any artistic work without his assistant. This pisses Alexander off. And about this time, Macon goes outside for a smoke, forgetting that previously, while he was partying and dancing, he'd kind of doused himself with alcohol before passing out. And he inadvertently lights himself on fire. Eventually, Paul gets fed up with Alexander. Starts thinking that he's full of shit. He thinks this guy's a fraud. And he injects Alexander with the truth serum. And it turns out he's right. He's a total fraud. He's a fry cook. He didn't have any grant money. His name's not even Alexander. He's planning to take all their artwork and kill them and sell it because it's worth more once the artist is dead. Which kind of explains why he didn't take the truth serum in the first place. And now everybody turns on Alex and they want to leave. And Psycho returns with a bag of crank. And Alexander tells him to shoot everybody. So he shoots Paul, and then he shoots Paul's assistant. And he tackles Lexi and tries to kill her, but Macon ain't having it. Because he's got a crush on her and he starts chainsawing Psycho. While Hellhammer eats the bag of crank. Lexi tries to free Chris just as Will breaks his silence and starts going on a murder spree. Killing Lexi, and then killing Alex, who had just been attacked by the cocaine dog. And Chris makes a run for it. And he ends up at Cicero's party. A guy that they mentioned earlier. He's another art guy. Because he's got all these artists at his house partying and putting on like a big exhibit rave type thing. And they know about Alexander. Somehow, Alexander has convinced all these local artists that he's a big deal. And everybody knows about the grant money. Doesn't exist. Bill finally catches up with Chris in a room with artists in it, and he kills everybody in there except for Chris. Up on the roof is Macon looking for an outlet to plug his chainsaw into. And he finds one because he's not after Chris. He's after Will. Because Will killed Lexi, and he loves Lexi, so he wants revenge. He doesn't give a shit about Chris anymore. That whole kill Chris thing, that's over. But after he plugs in his chainsaw, he somehow stumbles and falls off the roof. I'm assuming he died, and his chainsaw just happens to dangle down, and it's hanging by the window right next to Chris. So Chris sticks his hand out, grabs the chainsaw, and brutally kills Will. And then, drenched in blood, Chris walks home. And all the artists at the party think it's some abstract art exhibit, and they're all like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And everybody on Chris's walk home that sees him, they think the blood's part of his costume. And once he finally arrives home, he watches his movies that he rented like he should have done in the first place. The end. The Badass Award goes to Chris. Not only did he escape, but he also killed Bill. Also, I feel like him throwing his anxiety meds away at the end was a symbol of his growth as a character. What did we learn? Survival tales.
Don't go to random parties by yourself. Don't smoke while wearing a Halloween mask. Don't bring an axe to a chainsaw fight. Sometimes it's better to just piss yourself. And get a chainsaw that runs on gas. I mean, what the fuck?
As I watched this film, I felt bad for Christopher. He was just a lonely loser guy who found an invitation to go out and do something. Escape his misery. He thought he finally had a chance to go hang out with people that didn't know him. A chance to get away from the boredom of his apartment and of his life. To be something more than just a pumpkin bread bacon bitch. I've been there before. Sometimes you get so bored that you think that the answer's on the other side of that front door. Eventually I noticed that everybody in this movie was a loser reaching out for acceptance, validation. The art kids wanted the grant money because the grant money would validate their art, and the validation of their art would validate them. Alexander was ultimately the biggest loser of them all, which is why he needed the biggest lie for acceptance. And then there's Christopher at the end, walking home alone, realizing that people suck. It's not you, it's them. I've walked home with that feeling as a teen so many times. And if you enjoyed this video, once again, subscribe because October is just getting started. I will see you guys soon.